It's here. It's finally here. Spring practice begins today. We'll highlight spring practice, the schedule, and other things to look for over the next few weeks. Also, we'll talk about some position battles to watch, and I have one wish for every football player during this time of year. All that and more right here on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, March the 8th in the year 2022, and today's episode of Locked On Buckeyes is brought to you by RunYourPool. March Madness is here, and RunYourPool has a better way to create your bracket. RunYourPool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. I would also like to thank everyone out there for making Locked On Buckeyes their first to listen of every single day. We have done a lot of basketball talk over the past few weeks, with it being the basketball season leading into the Big Ten tournament. But I know Ohio State Buckeye fans love their football. And when they hear spring practice, I am sure a smile gets on their face, their countenance and their behavior gets a little bit different. They get a little pep in their step because football is what Ohio State fans love, and they love hearing about the boys being back on the field. And I got to be honest with you, I love it as much as you do. I'm a fan like you, and I love that this team is able to get on the field and put into practice what they have learned in the classroom. Spring practice for the Ohio State Buckeyes begins today. There'll be a practice on Tuesday, a practice on Thursday. They will take a week off for spring break, which is next week, and then practice resumes on March 22nd, and it continues through the annual intra-squad scrimmage at Ohio Stadium, which is the spring game. Ohio State gets 15 practices. The football team gets 15 total practices during spring practice, and so it's not like you have 4 months or 3 months. No, 15 timed practices for you to go through the things you need to learn at this time of year. May it be a new position, offensive lineman going from the outside to the inside, tackle to guard. May it be defense. May it be learning the Leo position. You've done a lot of things in the classroom. Now it's time to put the things that you have learned in the classroom, in the film sessions, into practice on the field. May it be a position battle. We'll highlight quite a few. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 position battles to discuss here with you. You'll learn all about them and why those 5 are the ones we're highlighting today. Spring practice is great. As a former football player, anytime I got to put the pads on and hit somebody else, it was phenomenal. It was great. You get a chance to start to work towards your ultimate goal on the field, which is a national championship. Yes, Ohio State Buckeye fans, we did a show with Jeff Hunt from the Off the Ball Network discussing what are realistic expectations for Ryan Day next year. And Jeff and I both said Big Ten Conference Championship game, winning that game, that's an expectation. Making a playoff, that's an expectation. Winning a playoff game, that's an expectation. Many of you say that a national championship is expected from Ohio State this year. Well, this is a time of year that they get to begin that preparation, on-field preparation, as Ohio State Buckeyes. You have newcomers, C.J. Hicks, Sonny Styles, Devin Brown, and others that are going to be getting used to Ohio State football. Caden Curry getting used to the speed of the D1 high major D1 level. It's different than high school. The physicality is different than high school. One thing JT Tuimoloau said last year, he talked about how these guys are, quote, strong as hell, end quote. And I'm right there with him. If you're going from high school, no matter what high school you're going to, and then you're going to college, you're going to realize 1, I'm a freshman. 2, I'm younger than most of the guys that I'm playing with and against. And then 3, them bad boys been in the weight room. I was in the weight room in high school, but these bad boys, their strength and conditioning program, it's a whole lot different than what I am used to playing the high school football. It's going to be a learning curve for everybody. But then you have older gentlemen, guys that are starters, such as Zach Harrison, such as DJ Stroud, such as Jackson Smith and Jigba, such as DeJuan Jones, Paris Johnson Jr., such as Josh Proctor, guys that are going to be able to be leaders. Some guys are coming off of injuries and they're going to be slowly getting acclimated and ramped up back into the swing of things. Some guys, they're going to be guys like Emeka Egbuka, who could be a starter this year, should be a starter, but it's going to be somebody that's going to be asked to do a whole lot on the football field. You're still going to have I say somewhat of a position battle, but not really a position battle, but you're going to have Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams battling it out for the starting running back spot. Many people still believe Travion Henderson is the better running back. I'm with you there. But that does not mean that Mayan Williams does not need to be on the field, and he should not get a lot of carries and consistently get a few carries less than Travion Henderson throughout the year. Trey may be the better player, but Mayan Williams is a great compliment for him. They can complement each other very, very well. And Mayan Williams knows I'm competing with Travion right now. I don't care if people say he's better than me. I don't care about that bad boys recruiting ranking. All I care about is getting on that field. And those two young men are going to battle. They can continue that battle right now during spring practice. I love this time of year. You love this time of year. Ryan Day loved this time of year. Oh, you know what else we're going to be watching? Jim Knowles and this defense. Yes, it's going to look different at times. Sometimes the guys on the back end are going to be doing the same thing. Sometimes there's going to be variation about what they're doing. The linebackers, their responsibilities might not change as much as they did from what they did last year, but they're going to be able to put into practice on the field what they've been learning in the classroom. I'm watching the defense. I'm watching the offense. I am watching everybody because, 1, I love watching football. But then number 2, I want to see growth from every player on the football team. Thanks again for making Locked On Buckeyes your first to listen of every day. Make sure to check out Locked On Bracket Breakdown March 14th right here on the Locked On Buckeyes podcast feed and YouTube channel. College basketball experts Chris Gordy, Andy Patton, and betting expert Lee Sterling give you in-depth breakdowns on every matchup. With spring practice back, not only brings football for all of us to enjoy, but it also brings position battles. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of those groups can be broken down into 2 different positions because it's a position group, and that group has multiple positions in it. But there are going to be different battles, different positions where players are going to be vying and fighting and scratching and maybe even clawing to win the position and battle to get more playing time. Some of these guys that I have listed were hurt last year. Some of these guys are freshmen last year. Some of these guys have been around for a while but are still trying to get consistent playing time on the field. We'll go to the interior of the offense and defensive lines and then branch out to other positions. Offensive line. I still think that on the bookends, left tackle, right tackle, that's not going to be any challenge at all. Maybe for one guy, but not for both. But I still think Paris Johnson Jr. and DeJuan Jones, those guys are going to be the starting left tackle and Jr., right tackle and Jones for the Ohio State Buckeyes. No questions there. But then you add in Josh Fryer, who I do believe is someone that Buckeyes that were at the Combine believe is somebody that could be in the mix this year to start for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's not just somebody that's been around for a while. He is getting better and grinding, but he can also play, as some Buckeyes that were at the Combine believe, play guard or tackle. And with that in mind, I still think DeJuan Jones and Paris Johnson Jr. are not moving. But with Matt Jones and Donovan Jackson fighting for the left guard and right guard spots, could Josh Fryer go from outside to inside and win one of those battles? Not saying it's one of those things where you have a guy in Fair Mumford going from tackle to guard and not giving him enough time to really get his feet wet and learn all that stuff. But you're doing something here where Josh Fryer can take all offseason, learn the footwork, learn the terminology, learn the hand placement, learn everything different from being on the outside versus the inside to a net battle. So Josh Fryer, keep an eye out for him, not only outside at tackle where he's been at his entire Buckeye career, but to be where he is possibly playing on the interior at the guard position for Ohio State. Somebody else to keep an eye on, interior O-line, is Harry Miller. Starter in 2020, the weakest link on that offense, but still a starter in 2020, 2021, got injured, was out the entire year. Harry Miller, I don't know if he's going to be a guy to be a center because I think Luke Whippler is going to get better and has that spot on lock. But Harry Miller can not only play center, which is his true position, but can also play guard. If you remember back to the Michigan State game in 2020, Harry Miller played center. That was also the game that Trey Sermon started to get into his groove and went smooth off. Yes, some of you may remember that Harry Miller had some issues snapping the ball. He also didn't find out he was playing center until I believe the night before. So if you haven't snapped in over a year, then all of a sudden you got to start snapping the ball. That might happen during the game. But with that moment where Trey Sermon started to get loose, was Harry Miller part of the reason? Was he a proponent and a pusher of Trey Sermon getting out there and getting on the field? I do believe so. So Harry Miller can not only play center, but play guard. So that left guard, right guard, center spot is going to be a battle to watch in this offseason. In the interior of the defensive line, Teron Vincent, Jerron Cage, I think they have those D tackle spots if Ohio State eventually at portions uses a four-man front. But if they use a three-man front, it might just be Teron Vincent by himself. Best to be determined to see where things go. But keep your eyes out for Ty Hamilton and Ty Lake Williams. Those two guys will be fighting to be in the D-line rotation this year. But then also at the D-end position, no matter if Ohio State uses one D-end, true D-end, or uses two, depending on what Jim Knowles is thinking about with this defense. Zach Harrison, probably going to be a starter. JT Tuimoloau is my guess to be the other starter. But keep your eye out for Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Jack Sawyer, and then also Tyler Friday, who is coming off of an ACL tear injury. Tyler Friday, I do think, is going to be one that's going to battle with the youngsters to get in that starting spot, get in that role, get more time in the rotation. But those are things to watch. At linebacker, Still Chambers and Cody Simon probably going to be the starters if the game were tomorrow. That's who I'm rolling with. But Tommy Eichenberg, who had 17 tackles in the Rose Bowl, is going to battle with Cody Simon for that middle linebacker spot. I think Still Chambers on the weak side, that's going to be his to lose. But also another guy name to remember is Reed Carrico in this linebacker battle. Yes, he's young, but he is somebody that I have heard good things about, and I'm waiting to see what Reed Carrico actually does once he's on the field. And this time of year, you get on the practice field, you start battling with those guys in front of you, and you show coach, I need to be on the field. And coach realizes this man needs to be on the field because he has earned it. Wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, no question. Marvin Harrison Jr., no question. Emeka Egbuka, to me, is no question, but Julian Fleming is going to be battling to get on the field. Watch it, because he knows he ain't beating out Jackson Smith and Jigba. He probably knows he's not beating out Marvin Harrison Jr. His best bet might be Emeka Egbuka, but Emeka Egbuka is probably going to be a player that can play inside or outside, which is an asset that I don't think Julian Fleming has in his bag. So when you keep that in mind with those two guys there, I am going to be very, very curious to see how Julian Fleming does in spring practice. And if Brian Hartline starts raving and if we see more flash plays in the spring game, because Julian Fleming is on the receiving end of said plays. Last but not least, the tight end position. Went through this kind of quickly. Wasn't planning to, but that's how things go. Tight end, Jeremy Ruckert, gone to the league. Cade Stover, his backup, going to defense, playing the Leo. So now you have three guys fighting for one spot. I still think it's Joe Royer's job. But will Mitch Rossi be more tight end one at times? I don't think so. I don't see Ryan Day using a 6'1" tight end. But if he does, so be it. But then you also have G. Scott Jr., who's in a battle to get more time on the field. I don't know. I don't see it right now. But I could be wrong. Reggie Scott Jr. proves to everybody, coaches, peers, teammates, everybody that's there, that he needs to be on the field. And if he battles and wins out tight end one, so be it. He won it. Keep your eyes out there for it. One area that I don't think there will be any shaking up is at the defensive back position. Denzel Burke and Cam Brown got that bad boy on lock. You got Ronnie Hickman in the bowler, or I will call it one strong safety position, got that bad boy on lock. Tanner McAllister from Oklahoma State transferred to where his defensive coordinator was from Oklahoma State. Jim Knowles, former Oklahoma State Cowboy D coordinator. Same place he coached Tanner McAllister last year. Those two guys go to Columbus. McAllister going to be the cover safety or other strong safety, but more inside the box, more run specific, or more pass coverage. Really, I think he's the one that has pass coverage responsibilities. And then you have Josh Proctor coming off of an injury, and Josh Proctor is going to be back. I think that's one area defensive backs ain't going to be, shaking up, because those bad boys got that spot on lock. YouTube subscriptions keep coming in, and I want to say thank you to everyone out there who keeps doing their part. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube channel. Every audio podcast is uploaded on YouTube video. It's a video every single day. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. In every video that's on this channel, you hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. Oh yeah, leave a comment in this video, in every video that's here on this channel. So I have a wish, a simple wish. You may say, Jay, this is a wish that I think should happen there as well. I haven't said what my wish is yet, but maybe you just are going to go out there and say, whatever Jay wishes for this football team is probably going to be positive. It's probably going to be beneficial for them to reach the goals that I have set for them. So I'm going to be with Jay. And so we're on the same page. Well, I appreciate that. If you're already on the same page as me without knowing what I am saying, I appreciate that. But the one wish I have for this football team is that nobody gets hurt. Not one person. I know things are going to happen. You may twist an ankle. You might get a little messed up shoulder. But no. When I say messed up shoulder, I mean a little ding where you can still practice. I'm not saying you have to miss practice, but you can still practice. You can still play. Those things are going to happen. But the one thing I'm looking forward to is coming on here during spring practice, after a few practices, after one practice, and all of a sudden I'm looking out here and saying, well, no injuries, zero, none, zilch, nada. Why? Because injuries that happened during spring practice and then fall camp derailed this team from being as successful as it could have been last year. Now, I don't know if they would have been fine against Oregon and fine against Michigan if nobody got injured throughout the season. I don't know. But I do think that hinders you in practice. It hinders you in games. If you're not at full strength, you can't properly prepare for the next opponent. I mean, it all trickles down, and it affects every person involved. Keep your eyes out for the injuries, though. If they happen, I don't want them to happen. You don't want them to happen. But if they happen, hope. Literally hope. Maybe self-explanatory, but hope it's nothing severe. Because that's the last thing anybody needs. We see how the basketball team has gone with their injuries. Seth Towns didn't play a game. If my memory is correct, I don't think Justice Suing played a game. If he played a game this year, he only played one. But I still don't think he played a game because he got injured in that unannounced or little kept behind closed quarters scrimmage with Ole Miss before the season started. I think it was an abdominal injury. And I still don't think he played a game. He may have played one, but not any. But Seth Towns, Justice Suing, been out most of the season. Seth Towns out the entire year. Michi Johnson just re-aggravated his ankle. Zed Key, aggravated ankle. Kyle Young, concussion after being sick. Who else is there? Who else? Jamari Wheeler missed time. Michi Johnson already missed time previously with a messed up ankle, and then also with a facial fracture. So this team has been hit hard, very, very hard. The basketball team with the injuries. And we see how the lineup is changing and altered every single game. Imagine a football team with that many injuries too. Starters and key rotational pieces. It's not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for disaster. And that's why my simple wish for this Ohio State football team is that nobody gets hurt during spring practice. You can tell how excited I am that football is back, that Ohio State is back on the football field. Yeah, the basketball team talking about that and that loss to Michigan and just the way this team has played in second halves of games, it's not fun. But what is fun? Buckeye football. It does something to us. And I love every second of it. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. If you would like to email me, send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now is the perfect time to make your second listen of the day, the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your fine podcasts. For Jay Stevens, this is a Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes. We're out and enjoy updates and watching videos and pictures and seeing pictures of your football team, favorite football team, back on the gridiron.